Alright, so how are you enjoying the day so far?
I've had several beers and every band I've seen so far has been kick-ass. Yourself?
Ditto.
Yeah, ditto. Oath of Damnation, my face is still melting.
Yeah, they were fucking incredible.
They are the audible equivalent of getting bricked to the face. It's ridiculous. But yeah, other than that, great.
Has you got a band apart from Oath that you're most planning to see?
Alarm and Goat Whore for myself.
Yeah, definitely those two, and Psychroptic. Yeah, that new album is fucking awesome, so keen to see that.
It is a fucking stellar album.
Yeah, oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, Truthy's always fucking put on an absolutely fantastic show, so that's always going to be a good thing.
It'd be good to see Alkira for the
1 millionth time. But once again, brothers in arms.
Yeah.
Support them whenever we can.
Fucking oath. So what do you guys think of the Australian metal scene in general?
For myself, in the most recent years, it's probably the best it's been for a long time. I mean, I've been going to gigs since I was probably 14 now. And probably in the last 3 to 4 years, it seems like everyone is finally not giving a fuck about the barriers. I mean, once again, you've got an underground black metal, death metal band, whatever you would call them, something similar as to Oath of Damnation playing, you know, right next to Truth Corroded, for example. It seems to be more of a family environment, I find, these days, and more of a fuck it, let's party and, you know, we're in a minority, let's bond together and see what we can do.
And that family seems to be extenuating to the international scene. Well, there's a lot of Australian bands making headway at the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially in recent years.
Yeah, what do you guys think's the key to that?
I think now with the internet, it's purely because bands now can actually get heard across the world.
Everything's instantly accessible.
Yeah, I mean, our film clip that we've done has been played, you know, overseas already on different webzines and different internet channels and forums and things like that, which would never have been an option if you go back 15 years ago. Like what I said before, when I first started going to gigs, where really your only form of method of being heard was that to basically be heard. So to play gigs to get your album out there and thank fuck that hopefully a band would pick you up.
And word of mouth as well.
Yeah, and word of mouth. Which, don't get me wrong, we're still very much a believer in.
Sure.
Well, you don't get that sort of stuff without getting that initial sort of boost, and you guys had that with the Channel V recently playing your Beard in Perpetual to See.
Yeah. And Rage, I just found out as well, actually, today.
Well, that's news to me.
From the bartender. It was news to all of us, apparently, but yeah, Rage played us apparently last weekend, according to the bartender.
Bastards.
But once again, bartender, you never know, those bastards.
Yes.
But yeah.
And what do you trip about? You think that's word of mouth or online sort of?
Don't know, I would hope it'd be word of mouth, because we've been busting our ass recently, especially around the release of the single and the film clip as well. But I mean, once again, I'll take it how it comes. I'd rather be heard. To be heard is pretty much paramount above everything. As long as people hear us and they dig the tunes, that's really all that matters, in my honest opinion.
I think a really important thing for local bands, especially in Australia, is to get out there and play shows and travel, like get around to different states. And you know, if people see that, it shows them that you're working hard and you're getting out there and you're bringing it to the people and all that. And I think you get rewarded for that. If you just play shows around your local town, that's it. It doesn't look as good, and I don't think you get that recognition sort of thing.
I mean, you look at an event like this, which is huge. I mean, we've got friends that are down here from Ballarat, Ararat. Even there's a few people from Sydney and Queensland that have come down as well.
Yeah.
It's purely because they have heard of those bands that do bust their ass and get out there and obviously play those other shows. You know, if you're only ever going to play the same 3 venues in your same hometown, don't get me wrong, you could be amazing at those same 3 venues and in your hometown, but you take 2 feet out of there and you'll fall flat. So I think it does work hand in hand, obviously, with that of internet exposure and still grassroots tactic.
So do you think that's the key to making it sort of to the next step? Like, obviously, there's getting a name for self on the Australian level, and then there's getting out there on the international level.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been touring more now than pretty much we ever have, really. I mean, last month alone, we played 7 shows?
Yeah.
Of which only 2 were in Adelaide. The rest of them were obviously in interstate shows. And even rural shows as well, because I think that's a lot of the part where a lot of bands will probably negate. And I think, especially listening to what the guys from King Parrot were saying the other week as well, that's where a lot of their following came from, was going to those rural areas and playing a show. Don't get me wrong, you might only play to 20 people, but those 20 people will love the fuck what you're doing.
Yeah, those rural fans are loyal fans, and every single one of them will buy a shirt because they don't get fuck all, you know.
Exactly. And then, yeah, obviously from there, obviously it's just going to be trying to get your music heard wherever you possibly can. So obviously trying to stretch out through the international market if you can.
Absolutely. And obviously your video clips helped a long way of that, but that was your guitarist Dav's last sort of song with the band.
That was his final hurrah. Dav, a week prior, maybe a week and a half prior to us actually going out to film it, we'd had everything planned, but Dav basically said he's pretty much had enough of being in an active band so much, which we'll never begrudge him, and he basically wants to spend majority of his time pretty much staying at home with his kid and being a dad, and I will never have a bad bone with that at all, and I still miss and love the guy dearly with all my heart.
Yeah, it was definitely hard for him because I know he loved doing it, but
yeah,
he couldn't commit to doing the touring and stuff that we wanted to do.
Yeah,
to take away from spending time with his kids. So.
And we're trying to basically try to push this as far as we can. So we do need someone that can be as committed as they possibly can, and really, not to be mean or anything, but really if it's going to come between us and his family, I would expect he would pick his family as well, and he did exactly that. And like I said, there's absolutely zero bad blood there, and we miss him and love him dearly, and all the best to the gentleman.
And for you personally, Matt, you've obviously had to come in and replace another guitarist, and I'm assuming Dav taught you most of the stuff. Has that been a struggle to carry on with him not in the band anymore?
A little bit, not really. We kind of had a good overlap where I learned a lot of the prior songs, and then we were writing together a lot. So we had a good unit going, and then Dav left sort of after that awkward phase of learning everything sort of thing. But I know what you mean. It's all pretty quick. But again, like he had to do what he had to do, and totally understand that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Plus, a lot of the songs that we're working on for the next album anyway were pretty much preconceived from Matt prior to him even joining the band. So, obviously, don't get me wrong, we've definitely Voros them up to pretty much the best of what we can. But essentially, a lot of the new album is pretty much, a lot of it would pretty much come down to be the brainchild of him. Don't get me wrong, there's obviously songs on there like we don't even know what's going to hit the album anymore, but obviously Mired in Perpetual Deceit was pretty much Dav's song. Yeah. That was him from start to finish, and I think that was probably the most fitting way ever to send him off.
Perfect send-off.
Absolutely. So you guys are obviously working on new material then, so have you taken over principal writing duties?
Everyone sort of brings ideas at their own leisure sort of thing, and anyone that brings ideas, we all get in the jam space together, and then they all get tweaked by everyone sort of thing. So at the end of the day, it's everyone collaborates on it and throws it.
It's very much a democracy in its finest form. At the same time, you have to be completely comfortable with having something that you love and think is amazing and bring to the rehearsal room, and 3 other people turn around to you and look to you and go, that's shit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, those other people might turn to you and go, absolutely incredible, well done, and then you go home and stride with that. So, if Matt comes in with a riff, or even our drummer comes in with a riff or anything like that, we'll all listen to it and go, that's great, but maybe if you try this, or even myself with lyrics and vocal patterns and things like that, we'll try to push it as far as we can. And obviously, if all 5 of us have to play that song, all 5 of us have to be comfortable with that song to a degree.
We all have such different influences band-wise. Like, we have very few bands where we all like the same band, so we have a lot of arguments. But I think that's, if there was one principal songwriter that dictated everything, that's just a boring band. That's not a band, I don't think. A band is where the end product is something that not anyone in the band is 100% happy with. Like, someone brings a riff, and then Ty will pull it this way a bit, and then Liam will pull it that way a bit, and it just twists into a totally different thing, and it makes it a little bit more original.
So you guys sort of come into a sound of your own through doing this sort of writing process then?
Very much so. I mean, the hardest part is whenever we play a gig and the promoter will say to us, so what do you guys sound like? And I have no fucking idea how to answer that. The label we get monikered with the most would be either tech death or melodic death, and both of them shit me to tears because God knows we're neither.
They're not accurate at all.
They are far from the mark. Progressive, groove, death, groove, black thrash. Yeah. Throw more adjectives into it.
I definitely hate subgenres now.
No, fuck yeah. At the end of the day, we do what we do. If people dig it, they dig it. If they don't, fair enough.
They can go fuck themselves.
So obviously for the last couple of months you guys have been without Dav, and a new guitarist is on board. Has he become your permanent guitarist?
Yeah, he has. His name is Jack. He's just turned 18?
18-year-old prodigy.
Yeah, that's the best way to describe it. An absolute 18-year-old prodigy. I've never met a kid who basically joined our band and, well, essentially was a hired gun at the time. And we said to him, cool, you've pretty much got 3 weeks before we go on a full Australian tour and you have to learn 7 songs. They are not the easiest songs in the world to learn at all. And you basically have to go now, and that's pretty much it. So old mate gave it the best he could, and he fucking nailed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely nailed it, and we certainly weren't easy on him. I mean, being sandwiched between our bass player and our drummer for 8 hours straight in a car would be enough for me to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And he did it without batting an eyelid, so kudos to the man.
And how's he fitting in with the writing of the new album and that sort of stuff? Is he at that level yet?
Very much so. He's kind of picking up the riffs. I mean, it's at a sad state of affairs where unfortunately most of the album was kind of almost preconceived, obviously before him joining the band, as we kind of touched on before, but he's had no issue at all with picking up the riffs or anything like that, and he is definitely throwing in his little, well, pretty much his 2 cents worth, and obviously trying to make him into his own. Because obviously we don't, with zero disrespect to Dav, we don't want someone to come in and be a Dav clone. You know, if they're joining our band, I want them to be their own person.
Yeah.
So Dav had some very unique sort of solos going on there. How's probably yourself and Jack covering them?
Jack handles all that. I don't want to have to deal with any of that. But yeah, Jack gets him down to a T. Like, he's note for note, gets it down.
For someone who hasn't even had a lesson with Dav, he's done it all purely by ear from either listening through the EP or obviously scratch track recordings that we have had. Fuck, the guy's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So can we get just an update on your album? Is it going to be released in 2015 or?
Absolutely.
Yeah, fuck yeah. If it's not, I'll jump off a bridge.
So we're pushing it back then a bit.
Please don't hold me to that. I've got weak knees. Yeah, absolutely. We're hoping to start recording May, June, July. So hopefully it'll be done by, I don't know, this is complete hypothesis, so it may happen, it might not. Hopefully for an August, September release.
Yep, and who are you doing that through?
Not entirely sure yet.
Yeah, we're still feeling that out at the moment.
We'll suss that out when it gets to that. I think we'd all really like to jam with Jack a lot more, and so he can input his own thing into the songs, so it's not rushed, and he's just hasn't let the songs sink in, sort of thing. But yeah, mid-year I think.
Yeah.
Sure.
I reckon mid-year is definitely when we'll be concentrating on obviously trying to set it in stone of what we're doing.
And in between now and then, you've obviously got a few shows coming up.
Yep, we absolutely do. We've got one on the 4th of April at the World's End with Hidden Intent. That's their first gig back with their new drummer, Paul. That's also...
A Modern Death.
Yep, we've also got A Modern Death and Age of Horror. Yeah. Lovely gentleman just over there giving us a big thumbs up. We've also got one on the 30th of May, which has been confirmed now as well.
That one.
And we're trying to also tee together another one up at the Brew Boys, which will also be at a brewery out in Croydon. So we're going to try to get that happening as well, which will probably be happening in early May as well. Because let's face it, what's better than metal at a brewery? Really.
Fucking oath. And well, speaking of breweries, there's about 400 drunk metalheads here today.
Absolutely.
What's your best recommendation for a hangover tomorrow?
Myself, like completely on myself, don't stop, and if you do, bacon and eggs. with emphasis on bacon, with more beer
cheese?
if you can. Cheese is
Bacon
also
and
good.
cheese.
Yeah. Honestly, cram more animals onto a plate and you'll usually win me. Apologies to any vegetarians or vegans. But other than that, honestly, don't stop would probably be my advice. If you don't stop, you won't get a hangover.
Yeah. That's some apt advice right there.
And you, old mate?
Yeah. Go hard today, get a good sleep, and go out for a pub meal tomorrow night, have a few beers.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
come Monday, you'll be right.
No, I really want schnitzel.
Schnitzel.